there is no debating the fact that the Kansas City Chiefs, they are dealing with plenty of problems right now. Offensive tackle issues. They have defensive struggles at times. Injuries continue to pile up for them. And it's all led to narrow wins. Andy Reid has been clear. He's been honest with the media, with the fans, that the Chiefs cannot afford to lose focus. They have to fix these mistakes at the right time, and the time is now, as he would say. I have fallen for these issues in each of the last 2 seasons. And I'm not going to fall for it again. Despite what you might believe, the Chiefs are far from dead. They should not be overlooked. And in case anyone forgot, they're 11-1, and they sit atop the AFC right now. They clinched the AFC West with a win over the Chargers on Sunday Night Football. Again, they clinched the division with 4 games remaining on the schedule. And I can hear people but Hutton, they can't close games. They're always in close games. They can't keep up. This has been what the Chiefs do, but they struggle in different ways the last couple of years compared to now. But they struggle this time of year. It happens almost like clockwork over the last several seasons. Let me refer everyone to 2022 and 2023 and what we thought of the Chiefs in those Decembers, and then what we thought about them 2 months later. In 2022, the Chiefs, they lost in Week 13. They fell to 9-3, and it looked like they were done. They weren't going to win the Super Bowl, and they did. 2023, they lost in Week 13. They were 8-4 at that point. It looked like they were going nowhere. They weren't going to win the Super Bowl. They did, despite being underdogs against Buffalo, Baltimore, and San Francisco along the way. And here we are in 2024. They were about to lose on Black Friday to the Raiders in Week 13. And now they're being called like the worst 11-1 team of all time. Only a few people have faith in the fact that they're going to win the Super Bowl. Just keep in mind here, they always seem to struggle at some point during the regular season. And then we write them off. And then they have a parade with a championship. Maybe you're still not convinced that the Chiefs have it this year. Let me reference back to 2021. Check out these scores. These are where Kansas City has struggled. Remember the narrative in 2021, the regular season and the 2022 playoffs. All of these games are what the scoreboard read at various points in crucial games. But they had it. And they still do. They have a stout defense, great coaching, and the best quarterback in Patrick Mahomes. The Chiefs, by the way, won all of these games on the screen. Check out some of these. 24-14, 17-0. The Titans in the AFC Championship game were up 17-7. San Francisco had them. Even the overtime game, 36-33 with 13 seconds left. Chiefs come back and win this game. What looks to be blowout by Houston. Kansas City comes back to win. That was on their first run to their championship. And here they are, just like they've been doing. They're winning. It's down to the wire, and that's what they're doing this season. They win. 11 wins, 1 loss to this point. And maybe the next loss comes Sunday night to the Chargers. Maybe they don't win the Super Bowl because the three-peat is extremely hard to pull off historically. No team has done that, and they haven't come close to it. Green Bay actually did. They won 3 in a row, but their first one came before Super Bowl 1. This is Kansas City winning 2 and immediately turning around and saying, we're going to try to win 3. It's about the Lombardi Trophy next year, and they said that in February. And it's crazy to think how little they're mentioned, really, when we bring up power rating. Right now, I believe it was Athletic, they have them ranked like 6th or 7th right now, looking up at the rest of the teams. Maybe perception is reality, but I don't fall for the perceived notion that they suck, as long as Mahomes is healthy. I'm not going to repeat my dumb assumptions with how they're playing in the regular season because they play well when it matters, and that's when the playoffs. And right now, the playoffs still go through Arrowhead. They are built to win on the road, too. I can prove it by just showing you their record, 11-1. again, they win again. I'm not saying I'm pulling for them. I would like to mix it up a bit, but I'm not going to lose money over picking anybody but them right now because they've done this in Week 13 every year.
It's amazing. And if anyone is doubting them, I don't understand how or why. I mean, you went through some numbers there, Hutton, but
so
it's if this was a team that just had not done anything yet, like I would
right,
get it.
Yeah.
Right? Like if
Baltimore.
you say people are saying the worst 11-1 team, yeah. Like if it's a team that had not had a lot of playoff success, or that you feel like they're just getting by on the skin of their teeth and there's some luck involved and all that,
right.
I would understand making statements like that. But this is the Kansas City Chiefs that are going for a third straight Super Bowl win.
They just clinched
They
their
just
10th,
find ways to win. That's what they
just clinched their 10th straight postseason berth. And they can go ahead and wrap up the division. And I'm bringing this up now because if and when they lose on Sunday Night Football to the Los Angeles Chargers, there is going to be this abrupt, the roof is caving in on Kansas City at 11-2. And I'm saying it before it happens. I'm not going to be one of those. Let's go ahead and just proclaim it. Like, unless Mahomes gets hurt, I'm not going to be one of those guys this year because I'm 0-2 when doubting them.
Yeah, I'm not ever going to doubt the Mahomes Mahomes is on a Brady-like pace.
Yeah,
right now.
Now
that's
admitted,
where he is.
He's not playing well.
He's in rare air.
But when it matters, he will play well, like he did last year and on the path to the Super Bowl again as the underdog.
Not a team to doubt.
No, Chad. The SEC is not the underdog. I'm not talking about football. In hoops, they're dominant. I realize that we saw Auburn lose last night to Duke.
Yeah, and Kentucky lost the night before to Clemson. Those are the only two losses in the ACC, SEC, or SEC, ACC challenge, whichever way it goes.
Quite the challenge.
14-2. 14-2 the SEC went in this challenge. Hutton, it's only December. Don't tell that to our guy, John Fanta. He'll go crazy if someone says it's only December. But it is only early December right now, and while the Big Ten is playing conference games already, no one else has even started their conference schedule. But let's talk about conference schedules a little bit because right now, the SEC, if the season ended today, you could argue that 15 of their 16 teams should be in the NCAA tournament because there's only one team outside the top 68 in the net rankings.
Wow.
That is number 89, South Carolina. South Carolina is the owner of the only bad loss of any SEC team. They lost to North Florida early in the year. There's not been a single bad loss to a team in the 200s or 300s by any SEC team. 16 teams in this conference. The net rankings for the 16 teams: 1, 3, 5, 6, 9, 10. Yes, that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of the top 10 are in the SEC. And it doesn't get much worse than there. 23, 24, 36, 38, 48, 52, 53, 55, 61. Vanderbilt at 61. Vanderbilt, I think, picked last or second to last start of the season. They're beating good teams to open this year. It is remarkable to see this conference. So no bad losses, a stacked conference. Lane Kiffin talks about how difficult it is in SEC football to go on the road and beat anyone. Hutton, right now in basketball, and again, I understand it's December, but when you get to January and the start of the SEC season, there's not going to be a bad loss. These teams are going to eviscerate each other.
Yeah.
There's going to be some weird records, and there's going to be some records that don't reflect how dominant or great a team will be because all of these teams, try going on the road to any of these teams and winning right now. They're all in the NCAA tournament.
Well,
every win is a quality win right now with this SEC.
Well, the other conferences, if they win, this is going to be a boost for them too. Come bracket up. Hey,
and they're not. That's the thing that they're running out of chances.
Because
to notch big wins.
Rename it, please.
If the SEC continues to win all of these non-conference challenges, yes, that Duke win last night will be huge. Clemson win over Kentucky is going to be huge. But we think of football in the South and the SEC, we are witnessing maybe the greatest non-conference schedule and non-conference performance for any conference in history.
Now, let's flip it, though. What has happened to the ACC?
It's a great question.
I mean, getting teams in to the tournament is difficult already. And while, the marquee matchups we've seen and they're winning, with Duke over Auburn, Kentucky falling. I'm looking at this going, it was almost, you mentioned 2 years to the day when you were pulled over. I don't know, what are you, 5 years, 6 years removed from when Sankey demanded that everyone step up their game in the SEC and play basketball?
Yeah.
It's almost like that's when the ACC chose not to.
Well, and maybe it's a money thing where the SEC is making so much more in media rights, and now they're distributing that money to men's basketball in a big way. I mean, just look at the coaches across the SEC compared to the coaches in the ACC.
Yeah, and a lot of the best coaches stepped down, retired.
Well, I'm watching Tennessee-Syracuse the other night, and I'm thinking, I mean, this Syracuse program is a shell of its former self. When you think about Jim Boeheim-led Syracuse
but
teams.
we're not. I mean, what are we? 2 years removed from Carolina.
I mean,
that's what I'm saying.
Think the tippy top of the conference is still pretty good with Duke and Carolina.
Man.
But Carolina loses at home to Alabama last night.
Davey Hudson joins us, Duke aficionado.
Noted Duke basketball fan.
Well, as a guy that's followed both of these conferences for a long time, it really does boil down to back, the early or the late 2000s, Mike Slive said, we're actually going to start investing into basketball. And you have seen that with the media rights deal on the football side, you're able to pay the coaches in the SEC more than pretty much any other conference. And you're seeing the exact opposite on the ACC. And we know the ACC doesn't have a whole lot in basketball or in football. And you're seeing that trickle down to the basketball side. The only two good programs you have in the ACC right now are Duke and North Carolina. And the biggest thing about their coaches, they both played for their current alma mater. So it's definitely a situation where you're going to continue to see the ACC slide down in those ranks.
But you mentioned Slive. That's true. But Sankey at a spring meeting, this wasn't too long ago, got everybody in the room and all the ADs and just said, focus on hoops.
Yeah, this is a year they got 4 or 5 in the tournament, and they came back afterward and said, we got to do better than this.
And they have.
Also,
they weren't spending the money. Is what I'm saying.
You mentioned the two guys coaching their alma mater. It's also Duke and Carolina, who should never be bad or even mediocre. But the other problem is Tony Bennett was the other national championship winning coach in that conference, and Virginia slipped, and that dude quits right before the season.
Yeah.
And I'm watching Virginia play, and I'm thinking, well, now I see why he quit. They are bad.
There's not a good win in the conference. If you're trying to prop up down the stretch, I'm saying
Duke's really the only team that's doing anything because North Carolina's now 4-4.
I guess what I should say, there could be good wins. There are atrocious losses.
What I don't understand is, in the SEC, there's really one, maybe two programs that actually care about basketball more than football. It's Kentucky for sure. I'm not talking about what makes the most money, but it's Kentucky and maybe Vanderbilt. In certain years, maybe Mississippi State at times, maybe Arkansas, but everyone else, maybe Missouri, everyone else, it's football first and everything else is a distant second. That's not true in the ACC. There are plenty of programs that would care about their basketball program being good before their football program. Syracuse, Louisville, Wake Forest. Yeah. I can go down the list. NC State, I think, is one of those that's won national title. They got to a Final Four last year. Why? I get the television money and paying coaches big money. Pay your players bigger money.
At this point,
you've got alumni bases
Florida
that can
State
pay
at this
dudes,
point.
Right?
Yeah,
I just think the motivation. It's crazy to me that the motivation. How can the motivation for sports just all encompass everything in the SEC where they can just dominate all? UConn has no problem. They got no TV rights deal for their football program, but they got no problem spending money on their basketball program and being dominant there. It's a crime by the ACC.
I think you can definitely pinpoint a couple of programs, and for UConn's a great example where it's just this is where all their money goes. It's just basketball, men's and women's. But for a lot of those ACC programs, I'm with you. They are wanting to spend more money on the basketball, or they would rather be great at basketball than football. I just continue to see how the lack of good coaches, and they've not gone out and spent money on those coaches.
Which is, but they're also this is not as much about winning national championships as it is getting to the tournament. Clemson, NC State, you see what I'm saying? At least be on par with the SEC.
Well, and if you're I'm
thinking from that
to
number.
Davey's point too about the coaching, and I agree, the coaches aren't as good. You can not spend as much money on a coach if you're going to spend a ton on your roster. I mean,
Yeah.
mediocre coaches can go consistently to the tournament. We've seen it throughout basketball history. You can be relevant by just getting really good players on your roster. I mean, you don't have to be some genius and coach everybody up to be a consistent tournament team in the ACC. So it's the imbalance of it, right? I feel like they should be spending on coach and roster, and it's like they're not really doing enough of either unless it's Duke or Carolina.
Yeah.
And that, I don't know.
And
That's,
even
watching
they've had
this,
some
watching
recent
this
down years.
challenge, it really jumps out to me
Look at Fanta.
when I watch the difference between the teams.
Fanta on this
Fanta's the best.
post. Up 7-0 in the SEC ACC.
We got at some point get the call of
Vinny
Fanta
Manny. Oh.
with a guy who said that, it must have really hurt your feelings to vote this team in the top. Hold on, hurt my feelings? I kind of liken
Xavier and
I kind of liken
Cincinnati.
Fanta with the glasses to Chris Farley as the motivational speaker. The way he looks with the jacket, also.
Oh.
Fanta was channeling Chris Farley when it's the coffee commercial where he's told
John
it's
Fanta.
not real coffee. Remember? And
Yeah,
he's like,
yes.
What? And he just immediately goes to 11. That was Fanta on this call. He's
John
the best.
Fanta. Not the best. Aziz Al-Shire.
Vinny, it's December 3rd.
Yeah, I know. Vinny, it's December 3rd. Look, it's so good.
Our guy.
It's November. Who cares? Vinny, it's December 3rd.
I want to love anything the way John Fanta loves college hoops. That's
He
my
lives it,
goal
man.
in life. I mean, that man's passion is unbridled for the sport.
Get
And
him back
anytime
on.
we get him on, you see it. It shines through in his visits
He's
with
the
us.
Timmy B of college
He
hoops.
is the best. Timmy B loves it all.
I know, but
Basketball and football. But, I mean, Fanta, just from
It
a college
pisses me off.
basketball perspective, and the Cleveland Browns. You got to go to Fanta's
Oh,
accounts
yeah.
for his
Oh.
Cleveland Browns anger when they suck. He's a huge Browns guy, too.
I don't know. He's a Jameis guy, I guess.
I mean, I'm sure he's a Jameis guy now.
Got Pittsburgh this weekend again.
I think he's a just Browns win guy. Well,
yeah, it doesn't matter. Just win.
he would start
He's a winner.
he would
He
start
doesn't suffer losses.
a purple transsexual at quarterback if it meant that they could win the Super Bowl. He doesn't care.
A purple transsexual.
Right, that's
Give
what we
me a
love about
massage.
sports, right? Like we
Yeah.
don't care. Like we'll get anybody out there. Shane Gillis has a great bit on that.
He would take Aziz Al-Shire on his roster if it meant
If
getting
it meant
some
playing
help
with a bit of an edge.
Yeah, getting some good defensive play.